Yeah. So when it comes to the obviously the biggest game in college basketball history for many, many years, Magic Johnson and Larry Bird, Michigan State versus Indiana State. Can you talk about how you went about writing that moment and kind of just the impact those two players ultimately have on the game of basketball? I don't know if you can even say we'd be in this situation without those two things. And I know we talked a lot about race and that at the beginning of the this conversation. I think when you have a Larry Bird and you have a Magic Johnson in the 70s, in a moment where the America's trying to find who it wants to be in this moment, you have these two polar opposite yet very unique basketball players that have kind of shaped this era of basketball that's going to come in from the 80s and moving forward. So, can you talk a little bit
It
about
is.
writing that? Yeah.
Yeah, you would say Larry and Magic and their competition across their Midwestern background and across their racial background was God's gift to basketball. Except that in many ways it was all driven by the relationship between Magic and his father.
Mm.
And the it's hard to describe the role that Irvin Sr. played in the life of Irvin Jr. Magic just idolized his old man. His old man had 10 children. He worked his can off to feed them. He not only had an auto worker's job in Michigan, he had a business on the side hauling trash and one in which he would pull his sons, including Magic, into the business to help him do it. He spent a lot of hours working, and he could have Magic after his freshman year at Michigan State had a chance to go to the Kansas City Kings, which would become the Sacramento Kings. And before that had been the Rochester Royals, this basketball franchise that had made its way across the country. But they offered Magic good money, but Irvin Sr. did not want his son to turn pro. Now, Irvin Sr. is a guy working lots of hours. He's got lots of responsibilities. He could have had every excuse in the world, but he and Dr. Charles Tucker, the Lansing school psychologist who played a big role in Magic's life, was very close, became very close with Irvin Sr. And so he was sort of representing Magic in the talk with the Kings. And Big Irv, as Magic's father was called, sort of gave him the wink wink to slow walk that and to not be in a rush to send Magic to the pros. And what that did is it meant that next year when Larry and Magic were sort of sailing along in their different paths to this grandiose meeting that just came, the timing was perfect. Basketball had always struggled, and teams were losing money, and the NBA had just come through a difficult 70s after being through a difficult 60s. It hadn't really figured out the marketing of the game. I I would submit it's harder to find more engaging players than Bill Russell and Sam Jones and John Havlicek and Cousy and Bill Sharman, the lineup of great Celtics. But they won 11 championships in 13 seasons. They never sold out their home opener after winning a championship each year. If I had a time machine, the first place I would head is Boston to get all the unsold tickets from each of those games and Let people take time machine trips back to witness the great moments of basketball. Basketball wasn't well marketed. It had been a Jewish game. It was something that caught on not long after Naismith invented it in the working class neighborhoods among the immigrants in the Northeast. And that was particularly true of Jews trying to escape Poland and Russia and Germany. And so Jews played it. They would play it in hotels. They would play it in little bitty gyms. They would play it in mining towns. And that was really a cross-cultural pollination because um, obviously you had a fair number of whites, but a fair number of blacks beginning to really like this game. It could get a bit violent. They would argue, not I mean anybody. It would be in the YMCA's, and I know I used to play a lot of basketball in the YMCA, and I witnessed a guy almost get killed one day in a terrible fight. And so, and I've had a couple of guns pulled on me, just hooping, the point is, basketball was this thing that evolved strangely, and then they finally got rid of the center jump in 1938, and it had been two-handed set shooters that would take two-handed dribbles and they would hop around. In fact, my father and his brothers were called Hopper, and the first Hopper was an all-state player in Southern West Virginia. They were called Hoppers because that's what basketball players were in the 30s. They'd take those dribbles and shoot those two-handed set shots. And so it evolved away from that, and then they began to have um, tall players. They hadn't had tall players. They were called goons. But the great black coach, a dear friend of mine, John McClendon, who had gone to Kansas and Fog Allen wouldn't let him play, but James Naismith, the inventor of basketball, was on the phys ed faculty. And he took McClendon under his wing, got him a job coaching. And McClendon was one of the first black students at the University of Kansas. McClendon then went to Iowa, got a master's degree, and went to what was then called North Carolina College for Negroes. Today it's North Carolina Central. But he started the phys ed program there that Jordan's own high school coach came through. And John McClendon had a 7-footer named Norbert Slim Dowling, one of the first tall players. Of course, the two white players that are famous are George Mikan, one of the early, approaching 7 feet, and then Bob Kurland, who was at Oklahoma A&M, Oklahoma State. And so they were all prominent, and they were goons, but McClendon knew how to coach. He's a really bright man. And so he did so many of the innovative things. And Hank Iba at Oklahoma State coached Kurland. He was good, and Ray Ray Myers in DePaul, the famous coach there, coached Mikan, and soon they moved in. Particularly Mikan moved into the NBA.
Mm.
First, he played for the Chicago American Gears in the old National League, but then the big guys became prominent in pro basketball, and by the time Magic came along, big guys weren't just goons. They were Magic he was fully wired. He took the game to the new age with the way he could play and passing off the dribble and There's just never been a ball wizardry and a competitive nature like that of Magic Johnson. And he was fortunate to go to the Lakers. It was a coin flip, but he was teamed with Kareem. And of course, Norm Nixon was there and those Showtime players. And Jerry Buss had just bought the team. He was eager to make his way as a sports owner. Man, the timing was perfect on it. And the results weren't perfect, but they were pretty close.
If you enjoyed that clip, make sure you head over to www.bookupapp.com to download our app so you can connect with your favorite bookish content creators, start conversations, and start your own book club.